Here with D Style Boxing. We got another episode of HCP Aftermath. And D Style, you were out there in Arizona this week for the fights. We're going to talk about that this past weekend. We're going to wrap it up. We're going to wrap it up, I feel, as good as anybody in the business. So I always look forward to these shows, the Aftermath, especially when meaningful stuff happens, and meaningful stuff happened this past weekend.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't even know where to begin. I want to kind of build towards Bam, and I think Bam, what
Oh, you
happened
want to
on
start with Jake
Saturday,
Paul?
yeah, Bam, what happened on Saturday with Bam sort of solidified a lot of things we've been saying on here for a while.
Mm.
So we'll build up to that. Let's start with the Showtime card. Let's start there because I just don't want to get into
I'm
Jake
going to
Paul
be
stuff yet.
very transparent because I was out there, so I didn't get to watch the card. But I did see the highlights of that knockout by Rayo, by the way.
Yes, um, Ryo, and I picked Ryo to win the fight. I had him in a parlay and an individual, and that was a beautiful shot. And you could tell he made the adjustments. I thought he would make the proper adjustments to win a 12-round fight, though. I didn't think he was going to knock out Colbert. I thought this being a 12-round fight as opposed to 10-round fight, felt he won the first fight.
Mm.
There were some people saying that Colbert is the better boxer, so he'd be able to make adjustments. I just didn't see that. Colbert's the type of guy that he's flawed in that he's just not as great of a boxer as people gave him credit for. And on top of that, not a puncher either. So he's just going to be a flawed fighter who can't win at the top level and can't even beat Arayo. I don't need to see a trilogy at this point. This was definitive. And I know you saw the knockout, though. That was a beautiful, brutal knockout. It's not knockout of the year for me. Still, it's Junto Nakatani knocking out Maloney for me. And there's been some great knockouts
We had
this year,
some
but it was up
candidates,
there.
I'll say that.
It was up there, though, because how Colbert fell like he's asleep on the rope.
Mm.
That was just beautiful stuff. So I don't know if you had any um, thoughts on that. And Robert Guerrero beat Andre Berto in the rematch, the rematch that we were all waiting for. So there was that as well. So just on the undercard, I don't know if you have any just overall thoughts on that undercard.
Yeah, look, the Robert Guerrero thing, I almost bet on that fight, but I was like, you know what? These guys are too old. I don't even know what the hell's going to happen. This was boxing version. You ever see those videos of those old dudes like fighting at the old people's homes? Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And they're clearly not in their prime, but they have the heart. You know what I mean? Then one of them always like falls down all awkward, and somebody stops the fight immediately. So that's what it was like to me. Look, I thought I saw Ruben Guerrero against Berto's dad in there, bro. That's how old these guys are, bro.
Mm-hmm.
These dude, like I'm like I don't know, man. It's time to wrap it up. Like, okay, you had your little fun, whatever. Nobody like if I want to see that, I'll watch my uncle's fight at a cookout. Like I'm done with that, bro. You know
Yep.
what I mean? Um, I can't comment too much on the fight because I didn't watch it, but that is that. What I will say is this: Rayo, I felt confident was going to win this fight. I felt like I felt he should have been given the decision the first time, and he came out this time. And I asked myself this question, and it's a shame we didn't even. I forgot the fight was happening, bro. And I thought it was one of the best fights of the weekend. You know what I mean? Um, so I was thinking going in, like I know Rayo's going to be more aggressive. I know he's going to like do everything he can to like not leave it in the judge's hands. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if that was going to play against him. Like he's going to be too aggressive and Goldberg will take advantage of it.
Yeah, pot shot
Um,
him.
or if it was going to work to his favor, which it did. What I didn't think was going to happen, I'm going to be honest with you, bro, like is knock him out. I knew stopping him was possible, like late, like if he tired him out, but I didn't think it was going to one shot knock out him like that. That was very impressive. And people need to remember this is why we cannot always go by the eye test. This is why when guys are beating up prospects and lower level dudes and are looking like $1,000,000 and Stephen A. Smith is tweeting out, oh, Colbert, he's special. Like, can we wait till they fight somebody, please? Like,
He's the next Mayweather.
yeah, like hold on, bro. So I do understand. Even we'll talk about it later. Like,
Every black American fighter that could throw a jab is the next Mayweather.
yeah,
It's insane.
it's like what they would do with white players and Larry Bird. You know
I
what I mean? Like
know.
it's like you don't. He doesn't have to be Mayweather, bro. You know, but um, obviously Colbert always looked very skilled to me. I knew he would be good, but I didn't know how good. And now we notice, okay, he's a step below Arroyo, right? And Rayo's a really good fighter. I've interviewed him before, and I think I think he's a great guy, man, and he loves the sport. He's hungry. He's the one that wanted to run it back immediately. Cobra was trying to say, like, nah, if we're talking shit, I'm not gonna give you the rematch, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. But they did it. He got the knockout. I had a single bet. I had Rayo by decision. And that's one of the bets I got wrong this because I didn't think he was gonna stop him like that. I thought it was risky later, but not in the 6th round with a one-shot knockout, bro. It is a knockout of the year candidate for sure.
Yeah. I'd put it top 5, top 10, somewhere around there. There's been some great knockouts this year, but it's going to be tough to
And I'll
top
tell
that
you what I
Jojo
want next from
Nakatani.
Rayo. Look,
What's that?
he's calling out Tank. I don't want to see that fight.
No.
I think Tank has bigger fish to fry.
Yeah, but he's got an O at the end of his name. He's Hispanic, so he might get it.
I mean, what's Venezuela? You know what I mean? But like, here's the thing: he avenged one loss. I would love to see Rayo back in the ring with Edwin de los Santos. That was a very exciting fight for the first 3 rounds. He, like, I believe he knocked down de los Santos, and de los Santos stopped him. I think that's a great fight, and I do think Rayo could win that fight, and it would be a good get back, and he could get back on track with his career. And it's not often you see somebody avenge 2 losses, bro. And I think he could do it. To be honest with you, it's a risky fight, but that's a fight I would like to see Rayo in next.
Yeah, y'all make sure to hit that like button. Nando Yamas, appreciate the $4.99 super chat. Saludos and Merry Xmas, Calix, D-Style, everyone. Appreciate you coming through, and Merry Christmas to everybody out there. Despite who you have, what movie you have in your top 10 Christmas movies, if you don't have Home Alone at the top like me, Home Alone 2, top 5. No,
unbelievable.
Despite that, Die Hard's not in it. Because Die Hard's not a Christmas movie. I'm sorry, it's just not. Gremlins is not a Christmas movie. Just not. Sorry, but despite that, Merry Christmas to everyone out there.
Who celebrates a Christmas movie where kids left alone and 2 dudes with pedophile vibes are like trying to like get at the kid? Like you know what I mean? Good thing they never caught the kid. Who knows what they were gonna do to him? You know what I mean?
It's a good kid, and he protected his home. He said, I must protect this home," and he does. He does it. It's beautiful
call
stuff.
the cops that whole time. 911.
It is what it is, D-Style. I don't know what to tell you. It had to happen. It just had to happen.
Responsible parents like Rocky Balboa and Adrian left a babysitter with their son. You know what I mean? They didn't leave him alone, right? When he went out there to change the world on Christmas, okay, and ended the Cold War when he beat Brago.
He ended the Cold War. Good Lord. Good Lord. Overrated movie, by the way. Overrated Rocky. Morrell Jr. I'll tell you what. I don't know if you call it. It's not, 4 or 5 minutes of a fight. It's tough to say once again because you say the eye test can be deceiving, right? So we just don't know until these guys step up. But Morrell Jr., the more and more I watch him, the more and more he looks like a guy that top fighters will likely steer clear of as long as he's being promoted and managed the way he is. And what I mean by that is I've seen 3 straight fights now where I paid attention to Morrell Jr. and how he's handled. And they're not putting his fights, they're not officially announcing his fights till 4 to 8 days before they actually happen. They're comping the hell out of him in Minnesota, a Cuban-American fighting in Minnesota. And they're trying to say, oh, this guy, they're building him up in Minnesota. It's like, why'd you pick Minnesota to build this guy up in? So I'm watching them manage this guy, and they seem to be managing him the way they manage Boots, where at least Morrell Jr. is getting main events, unlike Boots, up until his last fight. But they're hiding a serious talent. And when you do that, you're giving his peers every excuse to duck the guy, because if you're hiding him, he's going to be a guy who the reward doesn't meet the risk of fighting him, right? At least for a while. So I think Morrell Jr. is going to be the type of guy, and I'm not saying he's a boogeyman. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is I think his peers will watch him fight and say, maybe we should just stay away from that for the time being, because he's knocking guys out. He put a guy in a coma 2 fights ago. He goes after knockouts. He's really everything you want to see from a fighter, right? We say this about Boots too. Is he's a talented guy, but unlike Boots, Morrell Jr. has a gift of gab. He's actually he's got gab. He's bilingual. He knows how to market himself and call out certain fighters after fights. So he's aggressive in who he calls out. He specifically calls guys out, and he's specifically calling out Benavidez. And it's the warning I gave the Benavidez fans, right? Is the same thing you're saying with Canelo Benavidez, the same thing can be said about Benavidez Morrell Jr. Benavidez's team keeps saying, yeah, we'll fight him. And they were supposed to fight him the next time and no fight. So it gives Benavidez ammunition to say, hey, this guy's ducking me. This guy's ducking. Whether it's true or not, I know I got to be careful, but whether it's true or not, it gives Morrell Jr. and his team ammunition to say, this guy is clearly ducking me. He's clearly ducking me. And the Benavidez fans and the team will say, well, he doesn't bring anything to the table. That's the same thing Canelo can say about Benavidez's pay-per-view numbers. All I'm saying is I'd like to see all these fights. Give me Canelo Benavidez, but if not, we can do Benavidez Morrell Jr. Why not? But he looks like a serious talent to me. That's what he looks like. Whether it's realized in the future when he steps up, when he does get those fights, but he wants them. He wants those fights, right?
Yeah, 100%. Look, he wants the fights. And look, at the end of the day, he's kind of like mirroring whatever like Benavidez's dad specifically does towards Canelo. Like he kind of mirrors it towards them, right? Like, what's up, Canelo? Smart. You scared of fighters or what? And then he'll be like, hey, ain't nobody scared to fight you. I'll fight you. You're gonna fight me or what? Like, so he's kind of getting in the way of like it, and he's doing it in like he has no interest in protecting Canelo, right? Like Morrell could care less. He'll take the Canelo fight himself, right? Somebody told Morrell, hey, you want to fight Canelo or Benavidez? Your choice. He's going to take the Canelo fight, right? But he's doing what he's doing for a reason, right? In his mind, it's like, the more you run your mouth about this dude, I'm going to, like, to me, you're my Canelo fight. You know what I mean? To me, that's the fight I want.
It's like Benavidez. I don't know if your brother's older or younger, but the younger brother seems to pick, right? And Benavidez and his team are picking at Canelo, right? They're picking like the younger brother, and that's what Morrell Jr. is doing to Benavidez. He's sort of giving him a taste of his own medicine, right?
Yeah, he is. Like he's like, hey, you want to fight him, but I'll fight you. Stop saying nobody wants to. Stop saying you're a boogeyman. I'll fight you. Like he's that dude. Like he's there, like reminding people. You know, he just popping up on the photo. You know, that's what he's doing.
Yeah.
All right. He's photobombing the shit out of the Benavidez's, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to take selfies, like yeah, Canelo's ducking us. Everybody getting, and he just pops up like, I'm not ducking you, like like he's just right out there. That's what he's doing, and that is that. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's
he's a talent though, man, and I think I just wish they would move this guy correctly. I wish he would go where I'm hearing things about Boots Ennis, possibly Matchroom USA. I just want to see these guys go to places where people are going to value them in order to actually promote their fights, and then try to get them in the ring as much as possible. Because Boots and Morrell Jr. are two guys who are serious talents. And people need to know who they are. And I think the best way to do that is if they can't get the fights they want right now, keep them active. We keep saying about that's how Golovkin's team handled business for a while. Fight these guys 3 or 4 times per year. I'm sure they would love those dates. I'm sure they would love the fight. We hear Boots Ennis all the time on Twitter. I sparred 27 rounds today, waiting for fight date. I ran 28,000 miles today, waiting for fight date. These guys want to fight. I do believe Boots and Morrell Jr. want to fight. I want to see them getting main events and facing the best competition available to them realistically, and then mowing guys down because they're both capable of it. And that's when you start to get that buzz, right? Like that realistic, natural, organic buzz to where, okay, now these guys may get those fights. But right now they're caught in between because they're just not being moved correctly. They're not, but serious talent. I watch Morrell Jr. fight each time, and I'm like, I know, man, I know these guys aren't good that he's fighting, but I'm telling you, He looks good. He looks damn good. The eye test could be deceiving me here, but he's passing the eye test right now. That much I can say.
Hmm.
He's a puncher. He's a puncher, and he
No, he
wants to
is.
knock guys out.
He
So
is. He's not your typical Cuban school of boxing. Remember, like, they were bore
no,
us to tears, and we have to hear about it because you don't understand the Cuban school of boxing. You know what I mean? Like, you don't understand the sweet science of the Cuban school of boxing. But this guy's not that dude. Like, he's coming out trying to take heads off, and he uses his boxing to set it up, right? So that this guy, he's mean in there. He wants to hurt guys. He's trying to make a statement, and I like what I'm seeing. And I wasn't crazy about this opponent,
right, yeah,
and just to transition to this, watching Showtime go out on a whimper is kind of
yeah.
sad, bro.
Just like HBO, right?
Yeah, like, it went out on a whimper, and it could have been worse. Now, one thing I will say, I understand it copying the hell out of it, but the armory looks nice. It's a good visual.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah,
just for certain cards, why not? I don't know about a Cuban in there, but you could still do certain cards there. But
yeah.
for some reason, it's like that song "Outshine" by Soundgarden, where the line goes, "I'm looking California, I'm feeling Minnesota." Like, they were feeling Minnesota for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know why. Like, why Morel? Why the last Showtime card there? Why there? Like, I just don't understand. Out of all the places, but we heard all these rumors about a Mayweather and Thurman Stanionis on the last card, and we didn't get any of that. In my opinion, Rayo Colbert should have probably been the main event. That would have been a better way to go out, in my opinion. But watching Jim Gray give a heartfelt speech, but them not getting the sound right, and you could hear all the background noise engulfing the sound while he's talking. Um, and what's the name of that dude? The man that everybody thought was Al Heyman.
Oh, you're talking about
Uh,
he was in the
Watson.
background, and yeah, Watson. He's
Yeah,
trying
well,
to.
Watson's right there. They zoom out of him. You know what I mean? And the trainers in the back, like, yelling stuff, and it just it was a microcosm of the macro. You know, like, you can't even get the sound right for
Saw
Jim
that.
Gray's last speech. You can't get, like, just, bro, turn the fucking mic on right here, brother. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
I don't know. The whole thing was crazy. And it went out on a whimper, and it's a shame. And I just want to correct a record on one thing. There's people out here that are virtual signaling, and I don't get it. Why are they celebrating this? Are they really boxing fans? Like, here's a reality, bro. I live in the world of facts, in the world of reality. Okay. Um, I'm not happy that Showtime is gone. Like, I'm not happy about it. Now, whether or not I believe, we could do better than what Showtime was doing, I do feel another network, someone else could do better than what Showtime was doing for the last 4 or 5 years. I do. Okay, I do feel that way, and that's my opinion. We'll see if anybody can, right? But I'm not happy that Showtime is gone. That Showtime was part of my childhood. I grew up watching Showtime boxing. I wish Showtime didn't wasn't and Showtime boxing wasn't destroyed the way it was for the last few years. I
mhm.
wish Showtime didn't become second fiddle to Al Heyman and PBC while Fox got all the good cards, right? And they were just getting a bunch of leftovers on Showtime. And when Fox was no longer involved with PBC because they got tired of PBC, right? Were no longer paying for fights for PBC, right? Fox saw it. The businessmen, the guys that know the business, the TV, they said, "Fuck this boxing shit. We don't want anything to do with PBC," right? Then they decide, okay, we have a lot of makeup work to do. Let's go all out this last year, and maybe they'll give us an extension.
Yeah.
Sorry, it just doesn't work that way. Plus, I just think, yeah, they had some big events, which was great. But I just think people over exaggerate how great of a year it was for Showtime, in my opinion.
Yes.
I just
Yes.
think people over exaggerated.
Yeah.
You
Let
could
me.
you could
Yeah.
give
Go ahead.
me well, one more thing. You could give me your averages of odds, and which this fight, by the way, last weekend fucked it all up anyway. And I mean, 3 of those fights were Tim Zoo fights were done by No Limit. It had nothing to do with PBC, right? So if you take out those fights, all of a sudden the odds are looking kind of wide. Plus, promotions like Matchroom and like Top Rank have a bunch of dates. See, they have the opposite problem, Calix. They're told, hey, we want X amount of dates, and they have to deliver on those dates, or PBC's begging for dates, okay, and can't get them. They're told, no, go put it on paper or something. We don't want it, Al Heyman. That's what they're being told. And the reality is, yes, of course, if Matchroom has to put on a main event every week all over the world, you're going to have showcase matches like Katie Taylor had, where she was like a almost 30-1 favorite against a fighter, and you put that on the average, of course it fucks up the average. Don't give me the average, give me the amount. Give me how many main events that you have.
By the way, I did that. I did that last week. I don't know if you caught it. Okay, so I have my thoughts on Showtime going out. I'm glad you swerved into that because I wasn't even going to talk about it, but we need to. But as far as that goes, last week, I think it was Wednesday of last week, I talked about the odds and they're being misrepresented out there. I took proboxingodds.com and I took the closing average. And Pro Boxing Odds, what it does is it takes the average of all of the betting websites. And then I took the closing average of when ding, 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 when the bell rings. And if you take Showtime, they did 18 main events this year. If you take those, take 18 main events, it came out to roughly 8.5 to 1 to 9 to 1 odds, but somewhere around there. If you take Matchroom, they did 33 main events, so almost twice as many.
Almost double, bro.
And in those main events, they're doing showcase fights and not only championship fights, but showcase fights and female fights as well, which generally have wider odds, right? And in that, they came out roughly the same. It was around 8.5 to 9 to 1.
And here's the thing, Calix. I know you probably didn't do this, but if you were to take out the 3 No Limit main events, that would really hurt the Showtime PBC main events. Because you see, even you're doing it. Because with Matchroom, look how much more boxing the Zone gave you and ESPN Plus than Showtime.
Mm-hmm.
That's just Matchroom. That's not even saying the other independent and Golden Boy cards. But go ahead.
And why I say the year is overrated as far as Showtime, it's not just because I don't like the people personally at Showtime. It's not that. I can disconnect that. It's less dates. It was roughly 18 total for Showtime this year, right? But also there were 9, half of them came in minus 1,000 odds or less. 10 to 1 odds or less. And out of those 9, more than half of them were on pay-per-view. More than half of them went to pay-per-view. I think with Matchroom, I think you had 2 pay-per-views this year. I think it was Canelo Ryder and and the one that just happened with Haney and Prograis. So less pay-per-views. And I'm not saying Matchroom had a good year because I don't think they had a good. I thought Matchroom was okay. I thought DAZN was, especially since they went up on subscription. I had a lot of criticism.
We had our criticisms plenty for Matchroom.
But all I'm saying is these people are putting Showtime on a platform this year like they were way better. This is the greatest year ever, and I'm not seeing it particularly being what they priced people for. And I'm really frustrated with people blaming the market for everything. When people say
you have to update the numbers with the Morale main event. That's number one. Second. I had trouble.
I took that into account. Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's probably where it went from 6 to 1 to 8 to 1 then, because of that fight. But here's the thing: if you, bro, as someone who bets on fights, like I know for a fact I was having trouble finding value on the Showtime fights.
Yeah,
finding value for them was very, very hard. I actually found a lot of value on Matchroom cards. If anything, Eddie Hearn, which I have some criticisms about, I'll get there when we get to that card. He gets criticized for things that, as a fan, you should love, right?
Yeah.
Oh, Eddie Hearn, he should stop putting these young prospects in there with tough Mexicans. They're getting upset. Like, oh, okay, so you're telling me Eddie Hearn puts his prospects in risky fights where they could lose? Yeah. Shit, I'm there. I don't want to watch a bunch of mismatches on these undercards, bro.
Yep.
So it is what it is. Like, you could criticize from a matchmaker's perspective, is Eddie Hearn doing the right job with some of these prospects? They get upset.
Is he overpaying? Is he overpaying fighters? You know, right. DAZN said they did say they don't want to do pay-per-views, all that stuff. Their criticism. and we've criticized them. But
100%.
the other thing I would say is Showtime going out. I have a different feeling, I'm gonna be honest, than when HBO went out. When HBO went out, although I felt their content was going downhill drastically at the time. We talked about that at the time. I remember the commentating was not as good. They were slipping there. The budget was shrinking and the fights weren't as good consistently, but I still felt a little more sad. Showtime, I just don't. And I think part of the reason why is it's going to be more business as usual, although it's not going from Showtime
You know what
to,
might have happened with you and a lot of people when it comes to Showtime? Um, it's kind of like, you know that old saying, like when like on like he was dead to me already, like that. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
maybe it was dead to you already. It's
yeah,
like you had your mourning period already. Like you were mourning for the last 10 years,
yeah.
so you're mourned out. You know what I mean? Like you're like, well, I mean, it was
It
already
became
maybe.
I still had shades. I still had shades of HBO's good days in that last year. I had not like Showtime. Yes, they put on some good events this year, but for the most part, the production value sucked, and it was just so many years of what in the hell
Yeah,
is
like
this?
how do you fuck up Jim Gray's last speech with all that background noise? It was just sad. Like going out like that was sad, bro. You can't get that right. I mean, I'm just saying. And here's the thing. One more thing. The production was lacking. I don't know if there was cuts in budgets. I don't know if like the certain amount of people they had working, they reduced it over the years. I don't know what it is, right? But something was lacking. I didn't really pay that much attention to like the replays and stuff because I watch what I watch during the fight anyway, right? I don't rely on replays myself like that. But once I started paying attention, like yeah, they were like there was times where they would be like, and this is where he landed the right. Oh, no, he didn't land the right hand. Like it's just stuff like that. And believe it or not, it was actually Dana White that was pointing that out. And then I was like, is Dana just hating or like? And I started paying attention to
Yeah,
that. And he's right. Like they were lacking that department. It's not really the commentator's fault. There should be some communication there, but there was a lack of communication with, hey, we're about to show the big right-handed lands or and the earpiece. Like they were lacking a lot of communication.
and a lot of the stuff they were doing, it came off to me like low budget HBO to me. What they were trying to do after HBO left, it just a lot of it, the face offs, the 24/7s we used to get. Before the HBO events, the countdowns, it came off as low budget HBO to me.
I didn't like them, bro. I didn't watch them.
It never really got hit home for me in the lead ups. But also, I will say this: I think part of the reason I'm not sad is I
Yeah.
think it's going to be more of the same going forward starting in March because although Showtime didn't get picked up by Paramount Plus, and I think there's a specific reason for that that is not just business as usual. It's just they were not delivering. But I think a lot of these same characters are going to move on from Showtime to Amazon. I think you're going to see a lot of the same production value. I think you're going to see a lot of the same faces and talking heads go over there from Showtime to Amazon. So for me, it's just they're moving platforms. Same people are moving platforms. That's what this
Mhm.
is. So the nostalgia in me will remember, like when Chauncey asked me my favorite fights, I'll think back of Castillo Corrales, but I also think of the Marquez versus Vasquez. I believe all four fights were on Showtime. Those are the
I love
ones I
them.
remember. The Showbox stuff. I used to talk about how we used to be on there on Friday nights, Showbox, ESPN2 Friday Night Fights. That's the stuff I'll miss because on Showbox you'd had fights break out between fighters who aren't on the top level, and that's the stuff that I'll remember from
I just want to know
Showtime.
though, like, why are people getting like? I don't know if you notice this, Callie. It's like they get mad at the people that point out the flaws of Showtime and why it's out of business now, right? They get more mad at us for pointing it out than the ones that actually destroyed it, right? It's like watching shoplifting, and you're like, "Hey, man, they shouldn't be doing that." Like, well, what are you talking shit for? It makes a nation look bad if you share the footage of them stealing. It makes
Uh-huh.
America look bad. I'm like, them stealing is bad. I mean, me sharing it isn't bad.
Yeah.
Me pointing it out, like, yo, what's going on over here isn't bad. And it's like you can't. It's like, oh, don't say anything because it makes the sport look bad. No, no. What makes the sport look bad are the people in power. The people in power that are failing. When a football team is failing, Calix, right, and the team has a losing record, that they're not producing, like so the fans start saying, hey, it's time to fire that coach, that GM. It's not working out. We haven't got the playoffs in so many years. It's not working out. Nobody yells at those schools, those fans, and tells them, well, maybe there is. Like, oh, you don't know shit about football. You armchair coaches. What do you know? You never coached in your life. And no, like, we just go by results. I'm not saying I want to be the coach.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I should run, a boxing network. I'm saying we need someone better to run the boxing network. Okay, we need someone better to run the boxing promotion or challenge the promoter to do better, right? That's all that means.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say, hey man, like, nah, I don't feel this way yet, but I'm like, if the Bills will like the next 2 years are very vital to me. If not, McDermott maybe needs to go. Right? It doesn't mean D-Style Boxing thinks he's more qualified than McDermott to be the coach of the Bills. That's not what that means. It means let's find somebody more qualified, like maybe like a Bill Belichick. I don't know. To go ahead and be the coach of the Bills. Right? That's all I'm saying.
Careful what you wish for. I'm just saying.
I would love, like, bro, the only thing, you just need a star quarterback nowadays, bro. If Belichick was the coach of the Bills, we're a Super Bowl team.
All right. We'll see.
Just saying.
So let's get to it. Bam versus Sonny. Love this matchup
Well,
coming in.
Really quick, and I don't mean,
ahead.
you want to touch on Jake Paul really quick?
Yeah, go ahead. And by the way, I'm kicking myself for not betting the first round because I was this close to pressing the button. Plus 2,200.
You should have just done it. $5, $10.
Yeah, I bet plus 200 for it was plus 194 for Jake Paul knockout. I think we all saw that coming, right?
Like, here's the thing. And I think I sent you a screenshot of the guy that knocked out Jake Paul's opponent.
Yeah.
When I saw that, I was like, okay. And I'm listening to Jake Paul, right? The whole week he's like, I believe in manifestation, and I'm going to shock the world with the first round knockout. I'm thinking to myself, they picked this dude, and I went back and I watched some fights. He's a former football player that's been boxing for a while, but I'm like, he's still stiff. He's still like he's just stiff. Like, bro, I'm like, whoa. And I'm like, no wonder that dude that's 3-10 or whatever knocked you out.
And that's how an outside uppercut knocks out a guy, is he's so stiff and you can just sneak.
Bro, like the way he knocked him out. Now, granted, he was still 10-0, 5 knockouts. You know what? It's a start for sure, right? But here's the thing. I bet the first round knockout. I'm not saying I'm a fortune teller and I knew it was going to happen. I just felt there was a really good chance. Like, if he's going to knock him out, we know Jake Paul gasses out, so it's going to be early if he does it. So I did 3 bets, and I thought I have a good shot. I got Jake Paul 3-1 odds by knockout, straight up, right? Then I got Jake Paul round 1 knockout, Jake Paul round 2 knockout. So that's what I bet. And as long as he knocked him out, I would break even. You know what I mean? At the very least. But or actually, I would actually win a little bit. But either way, he hit the first round knockout. That shit paid for my whole trip, bro. Everything's paid for. Like, Jake Paul is the man. He paid for my trip to Phoenix. He paid for everything. Okay? Like, Jake Paul paid everything, bro. Even the drinks I had at the arena, he paid for them. Okay? Everything from the $8 sodas, $18 beers, all that was on Jake Paul. All of it, okay? Even the super chats I gave Joe Abib yesterday from Jake Paul. That you should thank Jake Paul for paying for all that. So, hey, it's a good start. I have a question for you. Is Jake Paul, in your opinion, good enough? If not now, but at some point, to be a top 25 cruiserweight in the world?
I don't know. I think he's going to be opportunistic enough to get good enough. And he's going to get good enough to be opportunistic and pinpoint a top 25 guy at cruiserweight to be the best possible matchup for him. Right. I think that's the best way to put it. This is what I want to give Jake Paul. And I commented about this as I'm watching the fight, the lead up to the fight, is that guy understands self promotion. And I wish more boxers had that. I wish more boxers had these two things about Jake Paul is activity. The guy's more active than 99% of top fighters out there, D-Style. And they're asking him about his next fight. He said, I'm going to have something for you next week. We already got something to work for next. So they're always moving, it seems, into a direction when you have these influencer boxers, right? You have guys already front row ready to call that guy out. It's got sort of that WWE aspect to it, right? He's got a big robot walking behind him everywhere he goes. He's got the gift of gab. That's the second thing is I'm watching him. He's doing rocking around a Christmas tree, walking to the round ring. And people who don't watch Home Alone won't get it. That's the scene where he's pretending like his parents are home. He's doing this, rocking around the Christmas tree. He's mimicking the party scene from Home Alone a week before Christmas. He understands self promotion. This guy gets it. He understands how to have highlights. He gets that this is a guy handpicked for me to knock out, like you said, and people are just going to see boxer and me knocking out a boxer in the first round. And then with a robot walking to the ring behind me, a 50-foot robot, and me getting behind the microphone talking about how I'm going to be a world champion one day. He's getting people invested in a journey.
Manifesting it, bro.
But he's getting people, whether it's fake or not, he's getting people interested and intrigued on a journey.
The ratings went up when we're talking about Jake Paul. Look at this. Like, I'm just saying.
But it's I'm going somewhere and I'm going to take you on this journey. I want to be world champion. And I want you to understand, like, Tommy Fury wasn't my ending. I'm going to get back up from that. And people, whether this stuff is believable, like I'm sitting here watching that. I'm just watching it so I can see my money cash out, right? And you the same.
Right.
I'm not interested in watching this dude fight, but I get it. I get why people are invested in it.
I'll say this. I will say this because there's people that already want to throw him in there with Opataya, and I'm like, whoa, like, you know what I mean? Like,
good Lord.
Here's the thing.
Good Lord.
I see people putting more pressure on Jake Paul to step up, right? Than Richard Torres, who's a former Olympian. Mm-hmm. This is the type of dude Richard Torres is knocking out, bro. Like the guy that Jake Paul just knocked out.
Yeah,
that's like the level of opposition that Richard Torres going out there beating up, knocking out. Like these guys can't lay a glove on him because he's too good for them.
Yeah.
If Ali's grandson, who like that's the only reason he's known, right? Everyone wants to get a Jake Paul. Like, what has he done? What has Ali's grandson done? Other than come out of the vagina of like Ali's daughter. Like, what else? What has he done? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what? I'm just saying that's all he's done. Like, but
it's true. And by the way, Nando's right about that. We've been saying it a while. That's a future fight. That is a future fight.
Hey, I'm here for it. I really am. And the thing is, as long as he keeps taking, I'm okay with incremental steps. And I know it's going to annoy people. I know people want to see him eat his words and they want him to lose already. But the reality is, Calix, he's going to take incremental steps. That's how the sport of boxing is. And I'll tell you who will eat their words. The people that were saying things like, "Oh, this guy, if he win, there's guys in my gym that could beat him up," and like, okay, who are these dudes in your gym? And like who? Like, you know what I mean? Like I don't know. Like, there's people that literally said it.
There's a fascinating aspect of Jake Paul, though, because if you follow like the real bettors, and they're the biggest purists because they follow everything, they watch everything from the club level up. Like if you follow a Fight Ghost on Twitter. Yeah. This guy lives and breathes boxing betting. He's been doing it for 25 years. That guy loves Jake Paul because Jake Paul makes him so much money. Yeah. And it's funny to see. It's a fascinating thing to see purists like that align with just the purest casuals out there in the market that are going to gravitate towards Jake Paul. And they both fall in love with the guy. It's a fascinating thing to see. Some people come around to what Jake Paul is out there doing.
And look, and I do have to give a shout out to just real quick to Franchon Cruz. I did not think she could win that fight, and she did. She beat Shadisha Green, so it is what it is. Boring ass fight.
Favorite, yeah,
a lot of holding, another example of I'm just tired of it. Why can't the sport just clean the shit up, bro? Nobody wants to see it. It hurts.
Could you imagine seeing 3-minute rounds of that? By the way, ugh.
Jesus fucking Christ, bro. Like, I'm just like, this is one of those fights where I was glad it was only 2 minutes. God damn, like, let's get out of here. Like, I just don't understand why we can't get this together. This was not a thing. If you look at old school footage, yes, they held, but dude, those were ebb and flows and fights, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Like it, I'm just, I don't know, man. Like, and I'll tell you one thing. And I was talking to Chicano. We were at Twin Peaks, right? This is a segue to the other card. And there was like football on TV, and then we went in there. They were promoting. They were going to be showing the UFC card, right? And I looked at them and I said, they don't. It's sad, but bars don't do boxing cards anymore. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't. It's all UFC or football, college football, or like that's what they do. UFC's in with a cool crowd right now. Boxing isn't. It just is what it is. Unless you're a big name like Canelo or something, but even then, it's I don't know. Um, and I remember like telling them like like boxing's a sport like the sport that I love, like my favorite sport. I get nervous watching it in front of a lot of people sometimes because I have a fear of one of the boxers like stinking up the joint.
Yeah.
And I just I don't like that feeling of people around me like just shitting on my sport, but they're right. Like this is boring as fuck. I don't want to watch this shit. What the fuck is this? And oh, back in the day, they wouldn't do this shit. Oh, this is why I don't watch boxing no more. It's just boring. Like, and I think every boxing fan knows exactly what I'm talking about. And we have dudes here on YouTube and social media all over, right? All over the YTBC. I see a lot of dudes that make it about other stuff and that's not what it is. You know what I mean about people being around, being bored as fuck watching a fight, and how that's harmful to the sport. You know what I mean, right? And whenever I hear things like, oh, when people call a boxer boring, that's code word for fuck him. Like avoid, like, no, that's not code word for shit. It means he's boring, bro. That's not a code. Like it just means he's boring as fuck. Right? I don't want to watch him fight. Doesn't mean I don't want my favorite fighter to lose to him. No, it means he's boring to fuck. It's like watching paint dry. I'm sorry. Right? And it's a real aspect. It's boring as fuck. I'm just tired of it, bro. And holding is a problem. And
Mm-hmm.
so are runners, bro. Like those two aspects need to go. We need rules. It's like NCAA wrestling implemented rules against stalling, right? And it made the wrestling more exciting. A lot of positive reviews from it. We need rules against stalling, whatever you want to say that is. And to me, holding and grabbing to quote unquote, you could sit here and tell me, oh, that's smart. That when you hold like that, you're nullifying your opponent. Like bullshit, bro. I want it out. Let's get rid of it. Right?
18 foot 18 but I would go further than 20 foot by 20. 18
18
by
by they
18 foot
did
ring.
18 by 18 for a century. Like all of a sudden, it's too small. All of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
So when it was the
So
most popular sport, right? When horse racing, baseball, and boxing were the top three in the world, and boxers like Jack Dempsey were celebrities, right? They were up there with the most popular actors, you name it. Okay, more popular than like freaking Joe DiMaggio and shit, right? You're telling me when Ali and Frazier were doing it, like when these guys in the 80s were doing it, you're telling me right now, right? That all of a sudden, like they had it wrong, but today they got it right. So today we got it right. When the sports and the shit, like a Twin Peaks won't even put on Bam versus Edwards, even though it's free. They'll put a pay-per-view for UFC and say, but we got it right? You're telling me it's right now. The way we're doing it now makes sense, right? But the way they did it for a century when it was a number one sport, all of a sudden, like they got it wrong, right? 18 by 18. And there's a misconception, Calix, when people say, like, oh, Leonard wanted a big ring against Hagler. You know what Leonard requested? You know what the big ring was? 20 by 20. The standard was 18 by 18. Can we go back to 18 by 18? I'm all for. I think 18 by 18 is perfect. I think old school got it right. I think what they were doing for decades, I think they had it right. If you ask me.
yeah. Bam versus Sonny. What'd you see? What'd you like?
Like, what do you want to know? Like, what?
It's I love the fight. but it started to follow the trend that we talked about going into this fight, right?
Mm,
Is if you look at the big 50-50 divisional implications fights this year, the trend was there was a gap
right.
between one of those guys. There ended up being a gap, right? Haney Prograis, Tiafimo, Josh Taylor, Spence Crawford, Fulton Jr., and in a way, there was a gap, turns out, between those guys. And that's what I saw
Yeah.
again here. And you talked about that, right? It wasn't just going to be stylistically, because stylistically, yes, Sonny Edwards, when these guys are trading, you can just tell the difference between the punches, right? And Bam is landing a high percentage of power shots, just a high percentage of power shots from the beginning. And Sonny's actually sitting on his shots, and he's staying in the pocket, and he's landing big shots, right? And once again, Sonny does a beautiful job of transitioning from southpaw to conventional and back and forth and back and just giving you different looks. He's just giving you different looks, and he's athletic and he's moving quickly side to side. So I know people are being tough on Sonny right now, that some people think he quit. And look, I don't want to get into all that. It's up for subjective. People get into that. I'd rather focus on the performance. Is he was
Mhm.
in there for a while. And I just more so think that top guys seem to bring it out of Bam. And you see Bam start to turn those levels on,
Yeah.
right? And we saw it with Rungvisai last year at Quadras. It's all right, I'm up for these guys. And then we said it for this fight. This solidified what we thought of Bam Rodriguez last year, that this is a special young fighter. You keep saying it, 23 years old, guys. He's young. He's young. He's young, 23 years old. And I'm watching him in this fight, and he's fighting a top fighter who was in his prime, athletic fighter, can give you many different looks and can make you look bad if you don't show up. And Bam just has a shiftiness about him. He's really quick. There were people saying he can't cut off the ring. Dude, every time Sonny moved to the side, Bam's right there with him. It's like a mirror. He's just like right there with him. And that's the thing about Bam is his big fights, he's getting stoppages because he ramps it up. He ratchets it up. And he's always in your chest. Like, he's always there. He's always making you engage in the fight. You just can't take a break against this guy. And Sonny found that out on Saturday night.
Yeah.
It's not just a stylistic matchup thing. It was also levels. Yes, Sonny is really good, possibly still even a great fighter. We will tell after time will tell. But he was a legit guy at 112. He's legit one of the best fighters in those lower weight classes. And Bam just made him look ordinary in this fight, because as the fight went on, those levels started to show up, right?
Yes.
And and
Uh,
and, and that's what I saw. And Bam just solidified that specialness about him.
yeah. Look, a couple of things about this fight. I didn't notice this live because I was there in the arena, but when I went back to watch the fight, something caught my attention. It was one of the announcers said, "This is the first time Sonny's gone down in his career. This is a mistake that wouldn't happen on HBO, right? Sonny's been down twice in his career.
Mm-hmm.
It's a third time he's been down in his career. Now, I don't want to nitpick, but like you should probably know how many times a guy's been knocked down when you're commentating a fight. Like you know what I mean? Because if a knockdown happens, you don't want to say something. Oh, it's the first time ever. Like it's not the first time; it's the third time ever. So Sonny's that I know of anyway. I don't know if he's been down before, but he's been down twice
Yeah.
before. Look, Sonny Edwards is a good fighter,
He's
good
tough,
outboxer.
man. Sonny's tough.
He's a very good outboxer. That's what he is. I never saw master boxer. I never saw a defensive wizard, or I never saw any of that. I just didn't. I didn't buy that he was putting himself on the ropes to make the fight more exciting, or he could make it easier on himself if all he did was box on the outside. And I never bought any of that. I just didn't. I think commentary convinced people of that in the last few Sunny fights. If you look at his opposition, a lot of domestic guys, solid guys. Alvarado was a really good fighter. Um, this was a big step up for Edwards. I don't care what the odds said. To me, I bet Sonny by knockout. I was very confident it was going to hit because I felt that this is a case where you can't just look at the odds and say, "Oh, well, the odds maker said that this was a tougher fight than Quadras." To me, it wasn't going in. Just got to be honest. I thought Sonny Edwards, this was a huge step up for him. I felt there's one thing I pay attention to fights, and when I'm looking at this fight, Alex, I'm like, like in war, you could win the battles, but in the midst of winning battles, you could ultimately be losing the war.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I felt in this fight. I felt like, okay, Sonny's winning some of these rounds, but his face is falling apart.
Oh
He
yeah.
like every round he's looking more tired.
Well,
Every round, the percentage of Bam landing is going up.
yeah,
Like he's landing.
He broke the orbital actually in the second round. He said.
Yeah,
So.
like I'm watching him fight, and the thing about the orbital bone, I think I looked at Chicano round. I think it was like round 4 actually, or 3. And I said, "Oh shit, his eye!" Like when you're up, like when you're watching a fight, not that we weren't that far, but like we're watching a fight, you don't notice stuff like that, like the little details, until it becomes like a bigger issue, right? Like it started getting worse and worse, and I didn't notice that. But I'm watching the fight. I'm watching his face fall apart. I'm watching he's moving less and less because he's getting tired. The mid-range pressure of Bam was really getting to him. Bam's feet were faster, at least from my vantage point, they looked faster. He was beating him, he was beating him to the spot every time. And I keep hearing things, Calix, oh, because Sonny didn't fight his fight. Bro, let me tell you something, bro. You could put these guys in the ring 10 times, Sonny wins 10 times. I don't care what, like, he's got nothing for him because at some point,
he was forced into it. Yeah.
Yeah, at some point you're gonna you have to get it range to punch.
Mm-hmm.
At some point you got to land punches, and he wasn't fast enough to fence man, like boom, touch you, get out of there, boom, touch you, get out of there. Sonny never does that anyway. Most of his fights, when he's pressured, he gets against the ropes and they start wailing on him, and they do land on him. So this whole idea that he could have done this, could have done that, Sonny himself said, I didn't move around because it would have been worse for me or something like that. Sonny didn't say any of that. Like, I just think he was in there with someone that could match him with the feet and speed and skill, right? And to me, there's more dimensions to Bam's game. That's number one. Second, Bam's jab was on point. People kept talking about the jab of Edwards. Edwards did land some jabs, but Bam's jab was on point. His counters were on point. He led when he wanted to. He countered when he wanted to. He controlled the fight. I ironically did say that this fight's going to remind me of Canelo versus Billy Joe. And with the eye thing, it turns out it kind of was, right? It wasn't an uppercut this time, but I just felt they were going to be in the middle of the ring, and then he did well away at him with the great combinations when he had him against the ropes. So I'm watching the fight, and I don't know how I don't know how you had it, like after like let's say 6 rounds, but I think I had it even. But it was one of those like I have it even in rounds, 3-3.
But it was going somewhere.
But I could see the momentum. Like the momentum was not in Sonny's favor.
I had Sonny win in 2 rounds.
Okay, so it was close per the 10-point must system after 6.
But it wasn't going to be close.
Yeah, but you could see, like, I don't like where this is going for Sonny. But one thing I will say about Sonny, he's got a pair of cojones. He's a tough dude. He took some hellacious shots. He got knocked down, got back up, went back to his corner, and I believe he told his corner, I'm good, because I think he couldn't see. And I'm not going to get on him for that because there's no point in continuing that fight. Like, it's pointless. You know what I mean? So it is what it is, and he gave Bam a lot of credit after the fight, so can't get on him for that.
Yeah, so because I have more things to say about Bam, but to wrap it up on Sonny, I still think he's the second best fighter in that division. A lot of I do believe so. I think he beat Martinez. I think he beat the.
I don't know about that one, brother.
So I'd like to see him heal up and take some more shots at this stuff. because I do believe he's a layered fighter, and he just went in there with a different dude on Saturday night. That's what I believe. And I think people are being a little too harsh on the quitting stuff. I think he was in it. I think his corner made the right move by stopping the fight, because that would have gotten ugly. That would have gotten ugly. And once you start dealing with eyes and stuff like that and orbital bones, man, you got to be able to. And that's what they told him, because before, apparently the round before, they're saying we will stop this, and he's saying no, and they're telling him, look, you don't see your face right now. You can't see your face right now. So I still think the same way about Sonny, even in defeat.
Plus, the other eye
But
was cut, bro.
yeah,
So he
it
couldn't
was
see
up.
out of one, and the eye started dripping in another one. It's a wrap. You can't
He
fight
was
the
getting
mind.
beat up, and this is what I'm saying about Bam is he beats guys up, and there's sort of a disconnect. And I think it starts to bleed into how people think about Bam. And yes, he's a reserved guy. And even I'm looking at it sometimes in the lead up to fights. I'm like, does this guy really care about boxing? You know, he's just talking about he plays video games and trains. And does this really, is he really invested in it? Especially when you see his performances against Hernandez and Gonzalez, who tough fighters. I would say top 15 guys. I was at the Gonzalez fight. They weren't, he won the fights. He won them comfortably, but they weren't what I would call Bam Rodriguez performances. But he showed his toughness, particularly in the Hernandez fight, by fighting through an eye injury. And that's the gap, right? Another gap is some guys are willing to fight through those things, other guys, not so much. That's another part of the gap. And that shows that he's a tough fighter. And not only is he a tough fighter who can take punishment, he dishes it out. Like, I mean, he will beat guys up in there. He just methodically breaks guys down in the ring. And it's footwork, man. Like, the footwork, he is always in position to throw those shots that are coming from weird angles. And you're not supposed to be land. It's punch placement. We talk about the top fighters in the sport all have great punch placement. The reason I now have him number 7 on my list, one of the many reasons, is he's doing it against great opposition. 2 different weight classes he's done it in the past 4 fights. His past 4 fights I would put up with anybody in the sport. He's doing them 5 fights in a certain period of time, and he's fighting through injuries. And on top of that, he did it against guys you would say a little past their prime, but now he's done it against a guy in his prime who was the number 1 guy in the division. He beat him up. He's just beating guys up. His CompuBox stats are off the charts, and he's landing big shots against guys you would call movers and good boxers, but he's still landing a high percentage of power shots. This guy will methodically break you down with power shots, but he's smart about how he sets it up, and he gets going quick. Like once he warms up, D-Style, once you let this guy get in a rhythm, you can't get this guy off of his rhythm at that point. So there's the rhythm fighting aspect of his game too. So he's one of the young special fighters in the sport. When we start to look at who is going to be pound for pound king 2-3 years down the line, he'd be on the top of my list right now, right? And
Yeah.
we've said for a while his resistance likely won't come at 112. It'll likely come at 115. If you look at the landscape,
I have to be honest. I didn't think Edwards had a shot in this fight.
right.
And I said it before.
Yeah,
The one thing is character matters in boxing. Like when a fighter goes through adversity, like how do they handle that situation? A broken jaw is nothing to scoff at. And for
no,
like it's your jaw becomes so sensitive. You're one shot away from literally it shattering. And for Bam to fight through that showed me about his character. Um, to me, like I understand it wasn't the best performance. It wasn't what we expected. There's fighters that even when they have bad performances, what do? They find a way to win, right? They gut it out. And in these tough fights where it's competitive, those the experience of those times you gotta gut it out, they come in handy because you've been there before,
yeah,
right? And and when you're having when you couple that with having a stellar performance, like you're you're not feeling flat that night. You're good that night. It looked like Bam was good this night. It wasn't one of those off nights. In other words, I felt Sonny needed an off night from Bam plus more. You know what I mean? In order to beat Bam, he was going to need Bam to have an off night. He was going to have a great night himself, and then he was going to have to still find a way to win that fight. That's how much I think of Bam. Um, Bam brings his A game to any fight, 112 to 115. He wins. If Bam's A shows up with his A game, he's going to win that fight against anybody. And I like to be careful about calling fighters special. And I know there's people that don't like that so early, but he's beaten legitimate fighters. Quadras was a top 5 fighter in his division. Rungazai was a top 5 fighter in his division. These are top dudes. Like period. The reason the odds makers had it wide because they also know Bam is a special fighter. That's why. And you saw it here. I said, this fight, they have it close. It's not going to look close. I'm telling you right now. And we saw what happened. This is a special fighter, in my opinion. Only 23 years of age, and he's just getting started. Put your seatbelts on, folks. Get ready, because his confidence is on all-time high right now. And as long as he keeps training, taking it serious, and I don't think anybody beats this guy for a while, right? I am very high on Bam, and I can't wait to see what's next. I hope it's Guy Estrada. I think that's a great fight.
So 115 seems to be the move because 112, I just don't think it's believable that anybody can beat him at 112. Eddie was concerned about the ring belt, but Bam's team didn't seem too worried about it, although it would have been nice to get that in the holster.
I'm glad the ring didn't bend, by the way. I'm just putting it out there.
Right. But so when I look at the young guys that I have on my pound for pound list currently, I would say guys mid-20s to younger. Devin, Teofimo, Bam, Shakur. Bam's right there with them, with all of them. And his resume, you could argue, is right there with him. Some of them even better, maybe. It's very much a weight thing, right? Unfortunately, that's what we have to deal with is the marketing is different. When you're talking about guys in lower weight classes, you have to be very, 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 get to the point of very special before you start moving the meter, right? Inoue's there now. Inoue's at point now where it's undeniable. And this guy's going to move up in weight classes. And even when I saw Chocolatito doing what he was doing, you still had people out there not paying much attention to how special he was. Guy Estrada, same thing. So when I look at Bam now, he's right there with those guys to where I can say, I could see that guy being pound for pound king 2 to 3 years from now. And when I look at the landscape, 112, I don't see much there for him. I don't see anybody moving up from 108 to beat him. There are great fighters there, but I don't see them moving up in weight to beat Bam because Bam's special as well. So 115 would be where the resistance would come, right? And it would be, look, I have my concerns on whether the Guy Estrada fight will happen, but I think if that happens, that's when Guy Estrada is going to be ushered off by Bam. I think Bam will continue to usher guys who are past their prime at 115 off. Rungvisai, I've never seen anybody do what he did to Rungvisai, Carlos Quadras. These guys who are a little past their prime or well past their prime, Bam's going to usher them off. All right, hell or high water. Guy Estrada steps in the ring with him. I think he's going to beat Gallo down. I think Gallo's going to have his moments early. It's going to turn into sort of a maybe in reverse Juan Diaz, Marquez type movement to where Bam's going to start to just pick Gallo Estrada off. Chocolatito the same. And I'm a Chocolatito fan. I think he would do it to Chocolatito now as well. I think the interesting matchup there, and this is where it gets fun, Kazuto Ioka, by the way, same thing. I think he would beat Ioka. It gets interesting when you start to talk about Junto Nakatani because Bam versus Junto, you're talking about, I think, two special talents who are younger in their prime, are close to it, and just very explosive fighters.
Both multi-divisional champions, but both guys that you have a story. There's a story there, right? And the thing is this. I know I joke around on Twitter sometimes, but that's a tough fight, right? Like period. Um, and the thing is that Junto is not like these Japanese fighters, bro. I know we've been talking about this for a while. They're not, you know, and this goes for a lot of fighters in a lot of regions of the world, bro. That you can no longer be told, okay, this is a Japanese fighter, and just having your head like, okay, I know how he fights. No, it's not like that anymore, right? Um, these guys train in America. They spar when you spar in gyms in the U.S. You're sparring. It's not like you're sparring Americans. No, you're sparring guys from all over the world,
Yeah.
right? That's it's important to note that. And look, Ioka has like he has that down. Like the way the way Robert Garcia has his fighters fight with aggressive bob and weave, go to the body, bend it the way. Like Junto knows how to deal with that. It's not, you're not going to catch him off guard with that. Like, you know what I mean? So it's going to come down to not really the style, but who's better. And I want to see that fight, but I will say this: I really wish Gallo Ioka would happen.
Yeah.
That should be there to close out that old guard. I think they both, us as fans, I want to see that chapter end
Me
that
too.
way, because it's not, bro. Like I love Guy Estrada, but it's not going to be pretty if it's Junto or Bam. If I'm honest,
I actually
you,
think
you know,
Chocolatito, even though Gallo beat him, I think that would be a tougher matchup for Bam. But even that one, I just think Bam has a style that's going to be tougher for those older guys at 115 to deal with. I think it would have to come from a younger
the
guy, and Junto would
inside
be.
fighting, Chocolatito versus Bam. I mean,
Yeah,
strap yourself. That's going to be nonstop. If it
yeah.
goes the distance, or if or until there's a stoppage. Um, I'm not sure Bam's like shifting and like it's gonna work on Chocolatito. So it's gonna be interesting. I'll just say that.
Yeah, so this is what I want to say too, as far as the future is. There are a lot of interesting um, directions you can go with Bam. There are several ways you can go, and I think they need to continue to stay aggressive. And I'd like to see him possibly fight 3 times in 2024, but I understand they tried to do that in 2022. You did it. His body didn't hold up as well as they thought, so we'll see. At least twice a year, but you can go to Japan with this guy. There's a big lower weight class market there. There are fights there to make as well. Um, but one of the reasons I don't want to keep harping on this, because like you said, it's a good process and it's a transparent process, and that's good. But one of the reasons I wanted to see this for the ring belt is I can't trust Martinez and Delakian to fight the fights at 2 and 3. I just can't. Delakian, even before the war started in Ukraine, he was not an active fighter. He hasn't fought twice in a year, and I believe 5 years at this point. It's been a while. Um, so you're lucky to see this guy. You'll be lucky. He's fighting in January 2024. You'll be lucky to see him again in 2024. Martinez, there always seems to be things that happen with his fights as well. I just can't trust that these guys are going to fight Bam Rodriguez and we'll actually get that fight. So that's the
Well,
frustrating
I don't know,
process.
man. Like Matchroom is behind them. There's gonna be money for those little guys. That's money.
I
Yeah,
hope so.
I'm just
I hope
saying.
that happens. But I think the move is 115. I would like to see them be aggressive and just move right back up to 115 because I was interested, very intrigued with what was going on with Bam at 115. And then 112, it was kind of like, okay, is he doing that because Josh is at 115? I'm assuming he's moving down to 112. But now with Josh out the picture, he can move back up to 115 and start handling business there and not have to drain himself as much. And they're just much more intriguing matchups. You can go to Japan with them. You can offer these older guys with bigger names some money to get in the ring, and you can start to move towards what I think is a collision course at some point. Although I've heard rumors of Junto moving up to 118, at some point I have to think those guys' paths are going to cross. I have
Yeah,
to.
look, I can't. I don't. They might even clash till they're at 118 or something. Who knows? One thing I want to shut down immediately, and I just don't know what's the matter with fans and some people out here, bro. Like Mannix talked about it. No, we don't want to see Bam versus Inoue. Like, what the fuck are we doing, bro? Like, what?
so
It's
stupid.
like Bam Inoue, what? And then Inoue versus Tank, what? Tank versus Crawford, what? What are we doing, bro? Even Crawford versus Canelo, like, okay, what are we doing, bro? Why
Yeah.
would Bam jump all the way to 122 to fight fucking Inoue right now?
No.
There's first of all, there's a lot of great fights to make at 115.
Mhm.
There's a lot of great fights to make at 118. Like I'm just saying, like Bam, look, Bam, something to consider. I think he beats Maloney at 118. He's got a
Okay.
belt, but they could do a fight in Australia. Like that could be a big fight over there, right? Like he's got options. You know what I mean? It's not like there's no options out there, right? And another thing with Bam, I love Arizona. Shout out to off ropes boxing MMA George. He was out there, met him for a little bit, so shout out to him. Great guy. Look, he was there. Chicano was there with me. Liza was there, by the way, too. I walked by. I didn't even see her. Like I was like, Liza, where you at?
Oh, be
I had to
nice.
look down. Whoa, there you go. That's right. But shout out to Liza though. A great person as well. It was great to meet her. And then I ran into O'Hara. Hot boxing man was hustling, bro. That dude doesn't stop moving. You know what I mean? I had to walk with him while I was talking to him. Yeah. It was great to meet you, D Style. Right, cool. You know what I mean? But anyway, good to see him hustling. That's why he's as successful as he is on TikTok, by the way. Doesn't stop working, that guy. And of course, so anyway, I was digressing, but just to offer some criticisms towards Matchroom, right? First of all, the setup's great. I like how they have like the blue corner, red corner. It's like lit up, and I like how that looks. The setup is cool. I don't have a complaint about that. The production's good. No complaints about that. I don't think Matchroom can control what. Maybe they can. I don't know what concession stands charges for drinks, but I think that's the same across
No,
the board.
yeah.
It's whatever, bro. Goddamn. But here's the thing. Can somebody tell me, anybody, can somebody explain to me, please, while we're in the middle of Arizona, we are in Glendale, Arizona, suburb of Phoenix. We're in Arizona, bro, right? And you're putting Galal Yafai as one of the featured matchups. You have MJ in one of your featured matchups, which I liked watching MJ. It was great to watch, by the way.
Mhm.
Um,
Good bounce back.
yeah, why are you watching McGrail as a feature? He got knocked the hell out, by the way, when he was dominating the fight. But that was a knockout of the year candidate for sure. By O'Quinn got a big stoppage there. Um, what's with these fights, bro? I'm not saying they're bad fights. Don't get me wrong. We're in Arizona, bro. Why is Jafai one of your featured fights? What are we doing? Where is the majority of the crowd there's Mexican? Where are all the Mexican fighters that you're showcasing? Yeah, you got Bam. Okay, you had one of the pupils of Robert Garcia on the undercard as well, and I get that. But on the undercard, where are the locals? Like, there's no fighters from Arizona. There's no fighters from I just don't that I know of anyway. I just don't, for whatever reason, Matchroom doesn't have their finger on the pulse on this region of the world, right? They just don't. I felt the arena was lacking some energy in a lot of those fights. Um, and there weren't even like bad fights, but there was just something lacking, right?
Mhm.
That I didn't feel until the main event for obvious reasons, right? But I just think Matchroom has to do better with the undercards. I'm just saying, overall, you got to do better on the undercards. When you have them here in America, I don't think your fight should have been on this card. That's me, right? That's my opinion. Like it is what it is. I just wanted to offer that criticism. I wasn't feeling. There were good fights that were on the wrong card, in my opinion.
Mm. Yeah. So Edwin Castillo, $2 super chat. No alert. No shock there. Bam is legit future face after King
Hey,
Canelo.
he could be, bro. That could be the one, right? We're probably looking at him.
Yeah,
Like
and
I'm
I'll do
saying,
a I'll try to warn people ahead of time on the community page when we're going live. Try to do a better job of that because just keep hearing people not getting alerts, unfortunately. But YouTube is YouTube. Uh, but yeah,
you know,
I this doesn't surprise me at all that people think this way because I'm right there with it. And this is the stuff we started to talk about early last year when we start to see these performances. And it's not just this is resume meeting performance.
mhm.
When resume starts to meet performance, you start to say, okay, the stuff I was seeing earlier on when he was performing that well against lesser known guys in the prospect stage, you're like, yeah, he looks great, but the eye test can fool us, right? We are talking about that with Morel Jr. earlier. Yeah, he looks great, but the eye test can perform us. When it's not just that resume is meeting performance meeting resume at this point. It's he just seems like one of those guys that fights better if the opposition is better. And you have guys like that. Who was I talking about recently who does? Oh, Tiafimo. Tiafimo does that. If it's somebody he's not interested, man, just forget about it. He's going to have a tough night. Like Tiafimo, that's why I say just put this guy in big fights because if it's Sandor Martin or who's the guy he's rumored to fight in February,
Jermaine Ortiz.
Jameen Ortiz. He might not even show. He might not look good in that fight. I'm telling you, like guys like that, he
He
might
should
not show
show
up
up with
for.
Jermaine Ortiz.
Yeah, he needs to, but he might see that and say, you know. But if it's a big fight, Tiafimo's going to show up. And I think Bam has a little bit of that in him. Gonzalez or Hernandez, tough fighters, top 15 guys, Mexican fighters. They're going to bring the fight to him. They're going to be in there. He's going to have to, get going a little bit. It may take him a little while longer to get going. I don't think it's just a style thing. I think he's the type of guy that is going to fight up to the level of competition. And guys like that, though, they will fight down to competition too. So I just think the 5-fight resume he's put together the past 2 calendar years, I don't want to hear anybody saying number 7, that's too high on your pound for pound. Like who else is out there that you would put above him, like 6 fighters above him right now that are actually doing things, putting on great performances, fighting consistently? He's up there. He's up there with all those guys to me.
I don't. I know some people. Look, the 3 fights before the main event, the featured fighters were a dude from Uzbekistan and 2 guys from the UK. That I'm not okay. I could take one. I'm not complaining about MJ. It was great to watch MJ. By the way, I think MJ looked great.
I like
He's
MJ. I'm surprised. I'm still surprised he lost it to
I
Paulus.
can't
Still
believe it.
surprised.
It should be MJ versus Inoue for Undisputed this coming week, but it is what it is. He's kind of like Loma with slower feet. I was telling Chicano, like that's what he reminds me of. But anyway, somebody said there's no notable Arizona guys. But then why are you putting in Arizona? This fight should have been in Texas, bro, or UK. It's my opinion. You know what I mean? I'm
I
not
think they
complaining
could
'cause they
build them.
went,
I
but
think they could build them in San Antonio, Houston corridor, or LA. You could do LA too. You got to market there, and that's close to RGBA, right? And then you have the Japan market. So there are places they can take this guy. And
yeah,
I think we figured out Arizona's not the place, right?
Arizona. I'm not saying there's no place for Arizona, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you get some cards, they're great. But I just there was better places to put it. I don't know if this was like a neutral area to put it, I guess. But it really wasn't neutral. It was a pro Bam crowd anyway, so might as well just put it in San Antonio. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To me, I mean, look, there is a little bit of a boxing scene in Arizona, but it's not quite Texas. Like I'm just gonna say that. And the best example I'll give you is this. So Escalante versus Roman. These guys were nowhere near as big names as Bam and Edwards, right? It wasn't a world title fight or nothing. It was a Friday Night Fights card. It was at the Don Haskins Center. They packed the place and they built it as El Paso versus Juarez. Okay, there was a Mexican against a Mexican American. Okay, that's a rivalry. Okay, like that is missing. Like maybe Eddie doesn't know about that. He doesn't know that's a rivalry. And what do you do when you put a Mexican against a Mexican American on a card, right? what happened with that card, my grandfather wanted to go because he wanted to watch the Mexican from Juarez. Right. I wanted to go because I wanted to watch Escalante from El Paso. My dad went with us. That's 3 generations that went to the fucking fight. Right. You get generational families to go to the fight to watch them. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just a quick example. And it did very well in the gate. So yes, you can. Like there's certain things you could do. If you would have gotten, I can't think of anybody off the top of my head, right? A Mexican American fighter, a prospect from Arizona, and you got a prospect from Mexico, right? And you put him on this undercard, I have a feeling it would have sold a little better. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm just saying, like, that's my opinion. I have no proof of that, but I do feel it would have sold a little better.
Yeah. So just to kind of piggyback off of that, I think there's enough blame to go around because it's not only promotion or lack thereof, maybe, but also Bam does need to realize he puts off Tim Duncan vibes. Tim Duncan was a great player. San Antonio Spurs were great, but people weren't that interested in watching them play because, unlike Bam, unlike Tim Duncan, he has an exciting style. He does, Bam, but the personality does come off dry, and when that is the case, you need to be entertaining and great inside the ring, which he has. But being in a lower weight class, that hasn't translated just yet to the market. I think he'll eventually get there. I think there are markets you can take this guy to, and eventually it's going to start to land. We got to remember he is 23 years old. But there is some self promotion that's going to need to be done as well. But I don't know if he's going to get that. I don't know if he has that aspect of it yet. That's where the ring, inside the ring, is going to speak for itself.
I
And I'm
I,
telling you, it's going to start to land. It's going to
I
start to
have been
land with
to a
people.
fight. Like I said, I saw a UFC event, right, where that guy, I believe his last name is Rodriguez, fought BJ Penn, right? And it was a UFC event, and the crowd was singing "Que bonito Chihuahua" like along because they knew the crowd. Like they know the Mexican crowd better than Eddie Hearn does. It's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
As a boxing fan, it was not a bad card. These were good matches. I just feel that some of them were just on the wrong card. I'm going to stand my square on that one, right?
Yeah.
And I've been to 2 UFC cards and you know in Phoenix. Okay, it used to be called a talking stick. I don't know what it's called now, where the Suns play, and it was electric and it was a Mexican crowd on the stands. Okay, I'm just saying.
And the
So,
only
so
reason I
like,
bring it up is I'm not interested in the economics behind it. I just want more people to see this guy fight and how special he is, right? We talk about that all the time. We want to see the young talent coming up who is now a pound for pound talent. He's there now. He's arrived. There's no denying that.
so
I
like
want to
there
see as
was,
many people exposed to this guy as possible. And here's the good news is
yeah.
there are markets, multiple markets, I believe you can take this guy to where he can be exposed to a lot of eyeballs. I think Japan market, the UK market will be there, but also I think there's a few corridors in America where you can take this guy, and if you build the card correctly, even with his dry personality, I think you can get guys out. But I was confused by it last year, D Style. I was confused as to why Canelo's about to fight Golovkin and Bam is in the co-main, and I'm thinking that I'm dumb. I'm naive. I'm thinking 100% of the place, at least 90% of the place is going to be packed to see Bam fight in the co-main. It's 60% full, and as soon as the fight ends, everybody ushers in within 5 minutes. There's a disconnect there right now, and I think it has something to do with the
Like
size as
you
well.
know, to give you another example, Marquez wasn't known as a big draw like that, but when he fought um, Juan Diaz, remember he fought him in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Remember how that crowd was divided? I don't know if you remember watching
Yep.
it on. What did Marcus say on the lead up to the fight? Like I didn't like what he said, but it's what he said. But it sold the fight.
Yeah.
He's like, Juan Diaz is only half Mexican. I'm
Yeah.
100% Mexican. I'm gonna prove it
Right.
in the fight. Like so that's a real thing, bro. Like I'm just putting that out there. That Eddie's not from here, so I don't think he understands that. Like Eddie has the UK now. You look at the atmosphere in the UK and the matches, they're not putting like dudes from all over, like that are not from the area over there like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like you don't go to Japan to watch Inoue and the undercard's packed with like dudes from Arizona, like on the other card. Like it's not gonna happen. You know what I mean? Like they know they know what's up. You know what I mean? And they may put some like maybe an up and coming Japanese fighter against a Thai fighter, or like because it's or like
They
there's a
do, by the
rivalry
way.
there a little
They
bit,
do, by
yeah,
the way.
or
Yeah.
Filipino fighter, like it's a healthy, but it's a rivalry nonetheless. Now, granted, that's a guess. I'm not in the Japanese market to know like that, to be honest with you. But I know there's not dudes from Arizona, like prospects from the U.S. on undercards in Japan and the UK. They're not doing that, bro. You know that's my only criticism. It doesn't mean I didn't like the fights. It doesn't mean I didn't like me. I loved watching MJ fight. Right,
Mm-hmm.
the guy is elite, skillful. I was like, wow, this guy's good. I remember telling Chicano, like, bumping his elbow. Do you see that jab? Like, you know what I mean? Like, the dude's good. I just think, like, not really that fight, but the other ones, like Yafai. Why is he in Arizona undercard? Why?
Yeah.
Like, do you know the answer, Alex?
No. Don't know.
Oh.
Don't know it. Any final thoughts? And just on anything, but particularly Bam, because he's there now. I think we can at least say he's great, but I think he has the potential to be. I mean, we're looking at a special talent here.
I think this is a special talent. It was a great performance. Even though I personally didn't feel that um just touch on this real quick. That's because Golden Boy and Top Rank know the area. Believe that's going to be a great fight card. Those two. But the thing is this. I feel like even though I felt a certain way, the perception was that this was a 50-50 fight. And man, that's gonna look good on the resume. Like
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like people are gonna look back and be like, "Damn, that was amazing." The one thing I'll disagree with, people are calling it a classic. I'm not gonna go that far.
No, it was a really good fight.
It was a
Great,
really good fight, but
really good fight, great performance.
Yes, it was a great performance, and we got to see Bam shine. I think Eddie put it best in one of his tweets, like Edwards proved, at the heart of a lion, and Bam proved he's a pound for pound elite talent. Like that's as good as you could put it, and I agree with that 100%. And hopefully we'll see Bam at some point. Like, hey, it is what boxing not it's the end is never pretty, right? And if the end of Gallo's against Bam, then it is what we got to do it. You know what I mean? Like, Gallo's the king of the division. Bam wants that throne. Well, there's only one way to settle it. That's in the ring. I will go on record right now, as much as I'm a big fan of Gallo Estrada, I would favor Bam in that fight. I would have favored Gallo like 2 years ago. And even then, in hindsight, maybe Bam would have won anyway. But right now, I'm definitely, I'm all in on Bam. I'm all in. And I do think, it may not seem like it at the moment, but I do think he's going to be a star, bro. I really do. Just needs to be seen around with the right people. Like, I think hopefully, and Bam needs to do this. Like Eddie can't hold his hand and promote him all the time. Like, Eddie's got other things to do. Like, Bam, you gotta not to bring him up again, but Jake Paul said this at his post-fight press conference. I don't know if you saw it. And he said, the age of the promoter's dying. It's up to the fighters. The fighter needs to promote himself. The fighter needs to do it.
Yeah.
You have access to social media. And I don't know if this is a reference to Bam or not, because I know you mentioned about playing video games, but he did say maybe instead of just playing video games in the weekend, you should be doing like short TikTok videos and putting yourself out there. And Bam needs, whatever it is, go to the right podcast. Maybe it's people get him on Joe Rogan, like get on the one with Logan Paul, whatever it's called. Like, get on the podcast and put yourself out there. You know what I mean? And grow your profile.
Yeah. So don't assume that talking with your gloves is going to do all the work, right? So I think that's a mistake that, say, a Bud Crawford made. I think that's one of the fair criticisms of Bud is, from what I hear from people in the know, he skipped a lot of his media obligations early on, and he didn't do a lot of the things he could have been doing to promoting his name a little bit more. He just trusted that being the best guy in the world will eventually do the talking, and he didn't have to do that stuff. It makes him look more real, yes, but you got to get out there and promote yourself if you want to be a star. And it makes it easier for you on the negotiation table as well to put in that work. And there's easier avenues than ever before to do it. There are multiple places you can go on social media to promote yourself. And I'd like to see these fighters doing that stuff. Um, and hopefully Bam does that stuff. But this is what I'll say is, we talked about in the ring. This guy has elite level footwork, great elite level punch placement, great footwork. He's always in position to punch, shifty fighter, just a very versatile fighter who will methodically beat guys down. That's the thing. Like, he will beat guys down. It's lovely to watch. And when the entertainment meets a great talent, we see that disconnect with Shakur, right? It's, yeah, all that stuff is great, but there's a disconnect in that you're not entertaining. We've seen it with Devin Haney at times. You're just not entertaining. Bam has all that, and hopefully that pierces the market, even though he's a height challenged fighter. Let's call it what it is. As the lower weight classes, it's going to be tougher for you to translate to the market. I think Bam, like an Inoue, like a Junto will be, I think they're special enough fighters to puncture that market. And I'll say this as well, 23 years old. Look at fighters in the landscape we're in. Fighters in 23, they're making all kind of excuses for them to not fight fights. We got fighters pushing 30 now. Frank Martins, even a Tank Davis is to a degree not fighting the fights. Boots Ennis, I think he's 25, 26, 23 years old. And he's got a 5-fight resume now in the past 2 calendar years that you can put up with anybody in the sport. Yeah. He's doing it. He's there already at 23. The sky is the limit for it. So any criticism we have for him as far as not being maybe marketable, dude, he's 23. It's early. It is early. Any kind of mistake he makes both inside the ring or outside the ring as far as marketing, he's 23. He's got time to figure it out. He's 23 years old.
Do you agree that he gets
You've been saying that for a while. He's 23, fellas. He's 23.
People are saying that he gets hit. I saw like 18% of the shots were landing from it. Like, you're gonna get hit by a guy like Edwards.
Yeah,
Edwards gonna hit anybody. Like, he's gonna land gloves on you.
And the thing too is, I don't think he was worried about what was coming at him.
Yeah. The other thing is this, like, and this happens a lot. Not to digress. I know we're gonna finish it off, but this happens a lot when guys don't watch the lower weight classes that much, and then they actually go watch the lower weight classes. I'm not saying this to anybody in particular, but and they're like, "Oh man, these guys get hit a lot." They're getting hit around the same percentage as the guys in the higher weight classes.
Yeah,
Chocolatito and Gallo were just landing about 25% on each other. The other 75%, they were pairing, blocking, moving. They're fighting at a faster pace. Is what's happening. In one round, you get more action than you do in 4 rounds of a heavyweight fight. That's just the truth. Yeah. So it's happening at a fast pace. So you see them get hit, but look at the percentages. They're not getting hit as often as you think. That doesn't mean he's perfect and he can't work on defense a little bit. But look, I don't look at Bam and say, man, that dude has a defensive mungia. Like I don't see that, to be honest with you. I think he has better defense than most. I will say that he has better defense than Edwards, and Edwards is he's a defensive wizard. Like, he landed over 60%. How good is your defense? You were hit almost 60%. How's that defense? Yeah. How's that working out for you? Right. Plus, he has an aggressive style. I don't want him to change his style. I think it's a winning style. He beats everybody with this style. I don't want to. I don't want guys to avoid engagement because I don't want to get hit. No, I want you to be aggressive. And when you're aggressive, you're going to get hit a little bit more, but be responsible. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's all I ask of fighters, bro.
Yeah. So somebody says something about pound for pound list updated. I did that this morning, and Bam's number 7 on my list. I'll put it on the community channel, community tab. So the people on YouTube can check it out, but it's already up on Twitter. And what you just said about the style in the lower weight classes, that's what we always say. What Gallo and Chocolatito have been doing at an advanced age in these weight classes is impressive. I mean, I don't understand how you're fighting after that many wars and at that age, you're still in there with those younger guys. It's just phenomenal stuff they're doing. But Sonny Edwards, the story's going to be Bam. We'll have plenty of time to talk about Sonny in the future, but I think there's a pathway forward for this guy. I do. There's still an argument if Bam moves up to 115, that Sonny is still the guy at 112. So we'll see. I think people are being a little too tough on him, saying he quit and stuff like that. I saw a guy who wanted to stay in the fight and wanted to win the fight, and it just he was just in there with a special guy. People can disagree with me on that, but I think he was just levels. He was in there with a special fighter. And like you said, if they fight 10 times, it'll be the same story. He's going to be forced into that, and then his corner is going to be forced into making the right decision, which is save this guy's eyes.
Yeah, well, what is he supposed to do? Like keep going out there, and then he gets getting hit in the eye, right? And then his whole career is over. So the way, like his way of feeding his family, his way of making income is gone now because he didn't want to quit. He wanted to keep fighting with a fucked up eye. I mean, I don't know, man. It's look, I don't get sensitive about the word quit like some others do.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is. But it was the fight was over, bro. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the fight was essentially over. Like I don't like to see a fight continue if it's over. Like it becomes uncomfortable to watch if it's just a beat down and the other guy has no shot to win. It's my opinion. You know what I mean? So that's that.
And then my last point will be the pathway I would prefer them going is move back up to 115 because realistically that's where the resistance is, and I would like for them to take that pathway to just fight those older guys and say we're going to usher these guys off. We're going to make sure that there's no confusion about this. That Chocolatito, Gallo, you can still argue, Ioka, you can still argue those guys are at the top, but guess what? It's my time now. I'm going to usher these guys off to the exits. And then eventually it's going to be me and another younger guy, likely Junto down the road if he stays at 115, or maybe I can eventually move up to 118. They're going to be, guys are going to pop up. It always happens. Guys are going to pop up. But for the meantime, those guys with the names, that's the fights I want at 115. Yeah. Chocolatito, Gallo, that's the ones I want. Ioka, let's get those fights made and let's get the business. On that note, we out. We'll see y'all later on in the week. I'm sure on D-Styles channel at some point.
Wednesday. We'll do it Wednesday.
We'll do it Wednesday. There we go.
Go back to work tomorrow. So peace out.
Wednesday on D-Styles channel. God bless. Peace.